All right. Hello, everyone. I know it takes a little bit of time before I start seeing comments, but welcome to my live for this week. I'm going to be talking about how I have been working to raise my basal metabolic rate. I put out a video last week where I really talked about how I, in particular, and how a lot of people that I see, doing carnivore, doing keto, just doing any kind of a quote unquote diet in general, how a lot of people are really messing up their basal metabolic rate. Good morning. I'm seeing people say hello on the chat. Good morning, Jonathan. So as you guys come on, please tell me where you're watching from, just so I know you're there. If you're watching the replay, please tell me where you're watching from as well. It's always really fun to see where everyone is from. So I have a lot. This is my notes for today's live stream. Good morning, Angela. So I will do my best to kind of like glance and see questions as they're coming in, but I have a lot of stuff I want to cover in this live stream. Jonathan watching from Texas, from South Dakota. Good morning, everyone. I'm seeing people slowly start to come on. I'm seeing the notification that people are watching. Awesome, awesome. North Carolina, Orlando, Florida. We've got ATL in the house, Atlanta, Georgia. So yes, and if you're on the replay, again, drop in where you're watching from. Hello, Brooklyn. What's going on, Nick? Good to see you guys. These live videos are really fun because a lot of people that comment on my videos, you guys know I read all the comments. And so I see some of these names coming in on the live video, and it's really awesome to actually feel like I'm getting to interact with you guys. What's up, Carnivorous Beast? I always feel funny when I say that. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a few different things here, and I'll say hello to you guys. Oh, Saudi Arabia, as you're coming in. Wisconsin. All right, so I'm going to try to stay on track with a lot of this stuff, but I put out a video last week about how I really screwed up my metabolism, even on carnivore, right? And I do think that you can mess up your metabolism really on any way of eating. But I'm going to kind of briefly review that, and you can go back and watch that video if you haven't watched it already. But a lot of you guys know I have a long history of weight loss. And good morning, Las Vegas. Oh, hey, Q. He missed yoga on Saturday. We'll come back this Saturday. Now, you guys, I do teach some virtual online yoga. If you ever want to come, let me know, and I'll give you guys that link. So, all right. How I kind of messed up my metabolism. So over dieting, I've lost 100 pounds 3 times in my life. So I've been calorie restricting for years and years. And I think a lot of you guys probably already know a lot of this information I'm going to tell you. If you do a lot of dieting, so if you say, I'm only going to eat, 1,200 calories, right? You'll probably, unless you've already done that a ton of times, you'll probably lose weight, right? But what's going to happen is your body is going to adjust to that level of calories so that in order to maintain the weight or even to continue losing the weight, you're going to have to keep on dropping those calories. And I don't know about you guys, but when I'm eating 1,200 calories a day, I am not a nice person. I do not have energy. I just don't feel good. So that's the number one thing I did. Now, the last time I lost 100 pounds was about 12 years ago. So over this last decade or so, I've tried a lot of different things to try to maintain that 100-pound weight loss because I never wanted to go back to that. And I'm seeing some questions pop in on the live chat. Yes, and I will try to answer those as I go through this. Now, Buffalo Bill has a good one. I'm just going to pop it up here. The only problem I have in keto and carnivore is my blood glucose levels are out of whack. Any insight other than the dawn effect? Absolutely. So that's one thing I'm going to talk about here in this, basal metabolic rate kind of a fixed conversation is that a lot of people are still having dysregulated blood glucose on carnivore and on keto. And I think that's for a few reasons. And if you're having that dysregulated blood glucose on carnivore keto, you're not going to get the benefits. You're not going to get the fat burning. You're not going to be in ketosis. You're not going to lose weight, and you're definitely not going to feel good. And there are a lot of things that could be contributed to that. Stress is number one. Number two, your macronutrients are not ideal to get you in that ketogenic state. So your blood sugar is too high. And that can be for some people. If you're on keto, it could be eating too many carbs. If you're on keto, it could also be eating too much protein. Same thing with carnivore. If you're eating too much protein on carnivore, not enough fat, you may not be getting into those ketogenic numbers. That will also, over time, make your cortisol really high. So cortisol is something that's going to influence how that works as well with your blood sugar. Histamines are a big one, your sleep. So I'm going to talk about all of that stuff and kind of what I'm doing to fix all that stuff for myself. I'm going to do a shorter video. I'm going to record today and tomorrow to put out hopefully by Wednesday of this week. You guys, I'm going to do my best because it's a lot that I want to put in that video, but I'm going to base a lot of the questions that I get in this live chat on what I'm going to put in that video I put out on Wednesday for like what you guys are really interested in seeing as far as all of these routines go. And someone says, diet do is kryptonite. I have to give it up? Yes. Well, if you want your insulin so insulin is going to spike sometimes when blood glucose does nothing. And insulin resistance is the main reason why people are unable to lose weight, why people are still in poor health. So, diet drinks are definitely, this has been studied time and time again in laboratory settings, that those diet drinks will absolutely spike your insulin. So I'm going to say you should definitely try to give those drinks up if you want to get rid of your insulin resistance. Let's see. Okay, so let me get into some of this. So over dieting, calorie restriction is the number one way I see a lot of people messing up and lowering their basal metabolic rate. I certainly did. The second thing I see people doing a lot of is too much fasting. I mentioned cortisol a little bit ago. So too much fasting, and even intermittent fasting, you guys, this is what happened to me. It ended up making my cortisol way too high. Oh, and I'm 7 minutes in. I haven't even said this yet. Let me pause myself. This is just my personal experience. I, in no way, shape, or form want to tell you, do this and you're going to have this result. And this is going to be the right thing for you to do in the right way for your body. Absolutely not. I want to be very clear on that this is just me sharing my experience. I'm definitely not trying to give anyone medical advice or anything like that. I just literally want to share with you guys what I've been doing. This is my journey. My whole YouTube and my Instagram is just purely my experience that I'm trying to share with people just to help. So some stuff that I say, like now I'm saying this stuff about the fasting, that might actually really land well with you. Okay. But for some other people, it may not land with you. It might not land with you. But for me, the fasting really jacked up my metabolism. It also jacked up my hunger signals, because here's the other thing that your body does. If you stick in like a small eating window, or if you're doing one meal a day, or even 2 meals a day for some people, is your body's going to adjust down your appetite. I have so many people that say they don't have any appetite. And I got to that point as well, that I just really didn't have much of an appetite. You don't want to be hungry all the time, but you want to have an appetite, right? You want to get those hunger signals. So for me, fasting really jacked up my hunger signals. I didn't know when I was hungry. And then when I did eat, it was really hard for me to tell when I was full. So, okay, I see Keith. Hey, Keith, good morning. Keith is such a great supporter, and I really appreciate him so much. Thank you, Keith. Yeah, and some people are saying no appetite here either. So that can definitely be, if you're really forcing those fasts and saying, I'm not going to eat until this time, it's going to get easier to fast and to do that, but you're also not going to get your appetite. You're going to kind of mess up your hunger signals. This is what I see happening with a lot of people. The other thing with not having an appetite, it could be a gallbladder issue. Again, not medical advice, but people struggling to eat enough, especially fat. Sometimes you need to add some bile salts, some ox bile in order to get your body able to digest the fats, as well as, some people need to take the HCl. So people are saying fasting jacked me up too. And the other thing with fasting, you guys, I always mention this, is that I have a history of eating disorders. I mean, if you've lost 100 pounds 3 times, you definitely probably have some eating disorder problems. So all of the fasting, what it would do to me is I wouldn't necessarily have a full all out binge with carbs, because I've done a lot to be in recovery from binging, but I would end up eating way too much meat. And people that say, oh, you just can't eat too much meat, you can't overeat meat. Well, I think that you definitely can. You absolutely can. I have sat down and eaten like 3 pounds of meat in one meal or more. I think I've got up to like 4 pounds of meat in one meal. So yeah, and Buffalo Bill, I'm going to answer this question because it's going to go in line a little bit with what I'm about to say. How often can you eat? Every 2 hours is good. I don't eat every 2 hours. So let me talk about what I have done as far as nutrition goes. So in this live chat, I know I'm 11 minutes in, so y'all on the replay are probably like, get to the point. But okay, so I'm going to talk about food first, my nutrition first. Second thing I'm going to talk about is sleep routines. Third thing I'm going to talk about is estrogen dominance, because that's been a big thing, which really goes around with like liver health. So that not, men, I think, and some men get estrogen dominance too. I think I see it a lot more that men are getting estrogen dominance now. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about histamines. I'm going to talk about my weight training routine, and I'm going to talk about electrolytes, and I'm going to try to also get to a new plan that I've been implementing in the last week. I finally stepped on a scale again, you guys. I have not been weighing myself because it's been very triggering to me and I have a history of obsessing over the scale. Feel free to comment with the word scale if you feel me on that. But I've been doing a lot of personal work on being okay and not obsessing over the numbers. So now I'm going to start weighing myself just to see if this stuff that I'm doing is working. And here's a little spoiler alert. I ate still in a caloric excess or surplus last week, and I lost weight this week. This weekend, and I didn't over exercise, and I didn't drop my calories super low. Okay, I'm seeing scale come in. I'm seeing it come in, you guys. Okay. But yeah, I lost weight this week, you guys. And some days, let me tell you how many calories I ate. A couple of days, I ate about 2,800 calories 2 days out of that week. So yeah, just FYI, that's what I'm doing now. I don't want to eat 1,200 calories a day. I don't want to eat 1,500 calories a day. I want to eat 2,000 plus calories a day and lose weight and be at a healthy weight. You know what I'm saying? So all this stuff that I'm going to talk to you guys about is other things that I'm doing just besides the food. But so first of all, let me talk about what I'm doing. It's kind of like, so are you guys familiar with Stephanie Buttermore? Have you guys heard of her and her like all-in journey? Comment Stephanie if you've heard of her. I'm just curious to kind of get a survey, because watching her has been really interesting. She essentially, now I think she had probably a little bit more metabolic damage than I did, but she was hardcore training, being in these bodybuilding competitions and just, trying to have this lean physique. She wasn't getting her period. Yeah, you guys, so I'm seeing Stephanie coming up in the comments, but she wasn't getting her period. She was cold all the time. She was hungry all the time, just insatiable appetite all the time. And so, yeah. All right. So that is essentially what I've done, but with carnivore. So I don't think my weight gain has been as dramatic as hers, but yeah. So this is what I've done with food. Now, one other thing I want to mention that you guys, I got some blood work done in January, February, and my T3 was low. So I did pop in the information section below this video a link so that you can get your thyroid tested, because that's another way to know that your metabolism has slowed down, that your thyroid is that kind of that master gland that's going to help regulate your thyroid, your body temperature, all that stuff. So being super cold, having a slow resting heart rate, not being hungry, all that stuff is a sign that your metabolism has slowed down. Again, this is not medical advice, but that's kind of where I was at the beginning of all this. Yeah, and some of you guys, I love Stephanie too. Now, so I basically have tried to do not necessarily an all-in version, but I have been eating 3,000 calories plus per day. I have gained weight, and I've talked about this before. Since, so I weighed myself in February at the doctor's office. Okay. I don't like getting weighed, but I did. And I looked at the scale, and, so Chase, yeah, Chase wants to know, or Q wants to know, which thyroid test should we test? It's in my, in the information section below this video. It'll take you to I would get the more advanced panel, and you can use my discount code Yogi10 for that, or Yogi20. You can get 20% off that, but that'll test your free T3, T4, those, and your essential hormones. It's a basic thyroid test, but my T3 was low, and that is, that's a sign that your metabolism is jacked up. I had never had low T3 before in my life, but I've been doing a ton of intermittent fasting, tons of it, not eating every day till 1 or 2 because I wasn't hungry, right? And then trying to calorie restrict on top of that, and then eating way too much protein so that I was not actually in ketosis. So I think all those things come into play. So that's what I was doing. So what I've been doing since February, now I weighed myself in February, I weighed myself again a week ago, right? And I think I've lost a little bit of weight in between all of this. But since February and now, I'm like 9 pounds heavier than I was in February. And I've been eating in a surplus, like 3,000 calories a day and sometimes more since February, you guys. So I think I'm down a little bit too, because I didn't weigh myself until about a week ago. And so I think I've lost weight since I weighed myself a week ago, probably 5 or 10. I'm not sure, 5 or 10 pounds. So I'm just estimating that I gained about 20 pounds. Now I know I'm down a little bit, but I have not been trying to lose weight until just the last week. And the last week, like I said, it wasn't like this major calorie restriction because I refused to do that. But in the last week, I've been staying in a range. Just the calories are not important. I'm doing a super high fat ratio. Yeah. So I'm looking at some of the questions. Sorry, you guys, for getting distracted. But yeah, I've been doing 0 fasting. I've been eating within 30 minutes of waking. So if I'm not like super hungry when I first wake up, I will literally have like a tablespoon of fat, whether it's butter or beef tallow or some suet with a little salt on it. I will do maybe a little workout, get my day started, and then I'll have like an actual breakfast. I don't eat every 2 to 3 hours typically, but if I'm hungry in between meals, I'll drink meat broth and I'll put some butter in it, or you can put tallow in it with a little bit of salt. I eat a lunch and then I eat a dinner. If I'm hungry in between, I'll have a little bit of fat. If I'm hungry after dinner, I'll have a little bit of fat, but I do drink that meat broth every day and add fat to it. So since I've just did that, I started getting my cycle on time. And I'm going to jump around a little bit. So estrogen dominance, this is more for the ladies. How do you know you have estrogen dominance? And now, again, this is not medical advice. Number one, you're going to carry more weight in your hips, thighs, and it's like your upper body is smaller than your lower body. I definitely have that because people are like, I'll show pictures of myself from like the boobs up, and everyone's like, well, your boobs are a little bit bigger, but your face is, your face and everything up here, you look nice, you look good. I'm like, yeah, I'm not showing you like my full body. I'm not showing you everything from the waist down. I have taken pictures so that as I go through this journey, I can show those to you guys eventually, but I'm not really comfortable putting those out there yet. So estrogen dominance, that's the first thing, is your body shape. The second thing Women, your cycle is going to be super, super heavy. It's going to be painful and it's going to be irregular. So since I just started with these higher calories, and again, I was eating, 3,000 calories or more per day. Sometimes maybe a little bit less, but I was eating a lot of food. I got this again, sorry, ladies talk. I got my cycle on Friday night, which was right on time. Okay. For day 28, hit right on day 28. And here I am Monday. It has been not painful, not super heavy, but enough so that it's an actual cycle. So I know that this estrogen dominance thing is getting better. So I know we talk a lot about food, but that's pretty much all I have to say about food, really, except for nutrition wise, I'm making sure I'm eating egg yolks, I'm eating liver, I'm eating thymus, and my fat sources are beef suet, beef tallow, butter. My macronutrient ratios, I'm trying to keep my protein around between 50 and 60 grams. I might go over a little bit. I'm testing my ketones and my blood glucose to make sure my blood glucose stays in a range between, the low 70s to mid 80s, right? And my ketones optimally. Now, when you first start this, your ketones are going to be super high. Like when I first started this, my ketones were going anywhere from like 4.0 all the way up to like 6.5. I was like, whoa, I was excited too. But eventually you're going to start to have your ketones go a little bit more towards like 1.8 to 2.5. Let me look at this. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. If I'm in ketosis or eat too high fat, my hair falls out. My appetite does not allow me to eat high calories on carnivore for some reason from day one. So, okay, this is just my personal thoughts and my advice. I would definitely check your thyroid because hair falling out is definitely a sign that something's going on with your thyroid. I would make sure that you're not doing any fasting at all, especially if your hair is falling out, because a lot of times that's thyroid. And then also you may need some support for your gallbladder because not having an appetite, not having, not being hungry and not being able to eat enough calories, it means that either you don't have enough stomach acid or that you're having issues with your gallbladder. So those are some places I would start that I would look into. I also always recommend my friend Stephanie Keto Person. I did put her information, her website and all of that so that you can get a consult with her or you can join her $15 a month keto group. She's been my person that I go to with this stuff. I'm like, I want to drop my calories. How do I do that? How do I boost up my basal metabolic rate? How do I fix all of this stuff so I don't have to just eat 1,200 calories a day for the rest of my life and be absolutely miserable? My thyroid levels are normal. My hair only falls out with high fat. So I would definitely talk with Stephanie, get a consult with her, join her keto group, and I just think that it would be good to just go over stuff because there's so much besides just like your macros that could be at play. It could be histamine. It could be something going on with your hormones. So I love to like figure things out, but sometimes it is, okay. Yeah. So, those are just my suggestions. Here's the other thing. I'm going to say something really controversial, you guys, super controversial. Some people, if you keep on having problems like this, then it may be a warranted thing where you might want to add in some white rice. You might want to switch your macronutrients up and start go for 6 weeks and try to do, I've seen staff do that with people, try to just get them on some white rice so they can get enough calories, they can get enough nutrients. Because there's just so many other things at play here. It may not just be as simple as like, boom, do this and you're fixed. Our bodies are complicated. Our medical history is complicated. We all have different stress levels. I was talking with, thank you. Oh, I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. Thank you very much. Especially what's going on right now with this whole pandemic thing. I'm going to have Morley Robbins on my show in a couple weeks, you guys. He's like the mineral guy. And, everyone kind of has their thing, and it's like your minerals are off and that's why your whole life is ruined, right? Everyone kind of has their thing. But, his whole thing is like, we're all stressed out right now. There's a global pandemic going on. Our bodies can't hold on to minerals. Our bodies are having a harder time holding on to nutrients. Our bodies are just seriously having a harder time right now. So yeah, don't get so dogmatic. And I never want to do that on this channel. It's like, no, if you're doing it this way, then you're just screwed up and you're wrong. I don't ever want to make anyone wrong or gaslight anyone or say, though, that's not a valid concern. So I hope that makes sense. And then Jackie wants to know, I have thyroid issues. How can I get a natural replacement? That I'm not sure of. I would definitely work with a functional medicine doctor if you can find one. For me, when I start having that low T3, and everyone, some things are going to fix things for people and some things are not. Boosting my calories up to 3,000 plus a day, having the super high fat ratios, doing absolutely zero fasting. The other thing I had to do was I had to cut coffee, which is not popular. Coffee was a big BFF of mine, but I don't drink coffee because what coffee also does is it boosts your cortisol and your HPA axis is going to get jacked up, which if your HPA does not have that proper support, the HPA axis, your I can't even say it right now. Basically, you want the HPA to be supported because that is going to be, how your metabolism runs, how your basal metabolic rate, all that stuff. And so for me, that caffeine was boosting up my adrenaline way too high. And Buffalo Bill, yes, Dr. Berry does have nice test recommendations for low thyroid function. So the test that I have listed under this video is a place to start. For me, it was like, ding, ding, low T3, boom, I know where to start. So that's a good place to start, but Dr. Berry does have a really good video on his channel, and I'm going to highlight this question. Gaslighting is making someone feel that the way they are feeling is not legit, telling you it is all just in your head when it is not. Exactly. And I see a lot of that going on in the community, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. People just saying, well, if you're not doing it this way, then you're wrong, right? Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate the super sticker. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Man, you guys, 27 minutes in and I have so much still to cover. Let's see. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Oh my gosh, I love you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, this is a good one. What did you do to boost your T3? So for me, this whole plan of what I'm talking about, I'm going to jump into sleep next because I think that's important. So I'm trying to get to everything. But first was the food, boosting up to 3,000 calories a day plus, doing a super high fat version of the carnivore diet, eating often, eating within 30 minutes of waking. All that stuff was like number one to help get my T3 back to normal range because it had gone down low from too much fasting and too much calorie restriction. Okay. So, all right, sleep. Let's talk about sleep. Tim, I've never heard about coffee. I'm 2 pots a day minimum. Yeah, I used to drink like a pot of coffee a day, you guys. And then I would wonder why I just felt like crap and why my adrenals kept burning out. Why do I have adrenal fatigue? If you have adrenal fatigue, what's going to happen is your sex hormones are going to tank. So this whole estrogen dominance problem that I am working on was a lot, I think, also caused by my overconsumption of caffeine. Let's see. Yes. And Carnivorous Bee said, I had low thyroid issues, which caused really bad depression and anxiety. Changing my diet really helps me to get on top of it. Yeah. And for some people, that dietary change can just do it. Some people may need more support. So let me talk about my sleep because I think sleep is super, super important in healing your basal metabolic rate, as well as getting that T3 back where it needs to be, getting your hormones to function properly. So some things that I do for sleep, and I put a link below this video where you guys can check out some of this stuff. I have blackout curtains in the bedroom. Okay. I have special light bulbs in my bedroom. My husband hates them because he's like, I can't tell what color my socks are. This is so annoying. But I have special light bulbs in the bedroom and like the whole back part of the house. He wouldn't let me put them in the kitchen. I would like to put them in the kitchen, but my husband will not let me do that. And so these light bulbs do not have any blue light in them. They're not fluorescent, so they can start to help your circadian rhythm. So it's all about circadian rhythm. So the blackout curtains, the special light bulbs that I have, so that when it starts getting to be darker outside, the light bulbs in my house are not giving me that artificial blue light, so I can start to produce melatonin, which will help me sleep. I get sunlight every single day. I wear blue light blocking glasses if it's after like 8 p.m. and I do want to watch TV, or I do want to grab my phone and like scroll, which is probably not the best thing to do for stress management. I do cold therapy. So I have been talking about it on my Instagram quite a bit. That I have been doing cold therapy. So I have this cold vest. I haven't done a video about it yet because, and the link to the cold vest is also in the link below this video. I haven't done a video about it yet because the owner of the company has asked me not to because Ben Greenfield has been promoting this cold vest and he's running lower on inventory. But I will tell you guys, on the day where I wear my cold vest, so I wear the vest for about an hour, my deep sleep, now I track my sleep with my Oura Ring, goes from about an hour to an hour and a half or 2 hours. So I will see an increase in my deep sleep on the days that I do cold therapy. And the deep sleep is when your body is doing that deep repair work where you're burning fat and you're in that deep repair mode. So the more deep sleep you can get, the better. And as we get older, the less and less deep sleep we get. And this is another case against the caffeine, against the coffee, because that is absolutely going to interrupt your ability to get that deep restorative sleep. So part of my sleep routine and part of my basal metabolic rate boost thing is that cold therapy. You can also do cold showers. I haven't tested out to see how cold showers affect my sleep, but I know that the cold vest absolutely does. I meditate every day. There's a book on the type of meditation that I do, if you follow that link in the information section below this video. And I do breath work. So the kind of breath work that I do is just alternate nostril breathing. Maybe, I don't know, you guys comment. I'm trying to look at some of these comments to see what I should include in my video on Wednesday that I want to put out about all these different routines. So if there's something I'm saying in these routines that's interesting to you, just comment it if you guys are watching replay, you can comment on the replay live chat. Also, you guys, let me look at some of these before I keep going. L. Russ explains thyroid function levels and tests in depth on Paul Saladino. Yes, and L. Russ was actually on my channel as well. So if you go into the interview section of my videos, you can see the interview with her. She is like a thyroid hacker. So yeah, let's see. All right, so that's really my sleep routine, and I'm pretty stringent about that. I try to go to bed every night before 10 o'clock because you're going to get that restorative sleep usually before 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. So if you want your basal metabolic rate to increase, if you want that faster metabolism, you have to be getting that repair at night while you sleep. So important. So someone wants to know decaf or I'm in trouble. I mean, I think you could try some decaf, but the other thing about even decaf coffee is it can be dehydrating. And so electrolytes are a very important part of the basal metabolic rate as well. That's one other thing I was going to talk about in here. So I would just try to just drink water if you can. And so, okay, so Fatimah wants to know what type of weight training will increase BMR. So I actually have that on my list. I'll go ahead and jump into that, and then I'll try to talk about estrogen dominance. What type of weight training do I do? So I also linked Stephanie Keto Person. I linked her YouTube channel because she has a couple examples of what's called time under tension workouts. So I haven't been going to the gym or gyms here. They are open But I like to work out here at home, and downstairs I have a weight set starting at 8 pounds, and they only go up to like 30 pounds. I have some kettlebells, I have a yoga mat. I just ordered online like a bench so I could quit like benching off the floor. But time under tension is basically what I do. And I work out, I do weight training every day, at least 30 minutes a day. So I just started doing this every day within the last month. Before this, I was doing working out like 2-3 days a week. And then I talked with Stephanie, who's a good friend of mine, but she's also my coach. And she was like, why aren't you working out like 6 days a week, 7 days a week? And I'm like, well, because I thought I couldn't. She's like, no, if you want to increase your metabolism, you've got to weight train, and that it's also good for your lymphatic system to drain. You have to work out like every day. So I work out every day. I do time under tension workouts downstairs in my basement, 30 minutes at least per day. And yeah, a lot of gyms are back open as well, but weight training is an essential part of increasing your basal metabolic rate. It's very important that you're doing some sort of weight training, and you don't have to do anything super intense. So go on Stephanie's channel and look for her workouts. But essentially what time under tension is you can do it with like a really light weight. So for shoulder press, I have a weight. I'll go up and then I'll count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and like just going really slow. So these super slow negatives, if I'm doing a bicep curl, I'll come up and then I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to go down. I do the same thing with like my squats. I'll go down counting for 5 and then back up. So you can get a really good workout, and you can really get your muscles to work and fire and grow just by doing workouts like that. So that's a very important part of increasing this basal metabolic rate. So, all right, so I've talked about food. I've talked about sleep, which I think is really important. Okay, here's another question. Do you still use a vibration plate? Does this help with lymphatic drainage and general exercise? Can you recommend a particular make, please? So I should have linked that, the one that I use. I will. Let me make a note to myself. So I do still use a vibration plate, and I do really gentle yoga, and I do these workouts, and I can tell a huge difference with my lymphatic system as long as I'm doing the workout and the yoga. The vibration plate is also very, very helpful, but I use a vibration plate pretty much every single day for just like 10 minutes a day. And I do think that that helps with the lymphatic drainage. So I'll pop the link to my vibration plate underneath the information section below this video. I'll do that when I get off here. So hopefully that will help. Okay, so histamines are also important here with because if you're having histamine reactions, you're going to have that, your blood sugar is going to be spiked. You're not going to feel good. You're going to constantly be still dealing with that inflammation. So I've talked a lot on this channel about how I've worked with histamines. I use ancestral supplements to work with getting my histamines under control. I have a link below the video for this. I eat thymus. I try to eat liver. I eat what's it called? Kidney. Lamb kidney is edible, but you can also take those supplements. And I also rotate my foods. I try to stay away from ground meats. I don't do any ground meats, and I try to eat as fresh as humanly possible. I don't eat leftovers out of the fridge. So I think that that's, looking at your histamine reactions, that's also important here. Electrolytes are very important here as well. If you don't have balanced electrolytes, if you don't have enough salt, enough sodium, that can also throw off your metabolism big time. It can make your cortisol way too high. So a lot of this stuff is just so hormonally driven. We get so hyper-focused on the food, and we don't look at, the hormones and how that impacts us as much as we should. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, so I have MCA is mast cell activation, and can't take a lot of supplements because, I agree. So a lot of times and I did an interview with Dr. Becky Campbell on this channel. She is a really great resource for histamine. So I recommend looking at that interview because she actually talks about supplements and why someone who has mast cell activation definitely needs to stay away from supplements that have more than one ingredient, which a lot of them do, because that can trigger a reaction big time. Let's see. So, okay, what should I do if I look into my thyroid and it came back normal, but I still have issues? Not sure what. Okay, so the other thing you want to look at, Nia, is what I'm going to talk about next is estrogen dominance. And like I mentioned earlier, estrogen dominance, some signs and symptoms are going to be carrying more weight in your legs, hips, inability to lose weight, really super heavy periods or irregular periods. Those are going to be some things that are causing the estrogen dominance. And a lot of what's going to help you guys with estrogen dominance, I'm going to talk about that. This is stuff that I've done for estrogen dominance. So I hope that this helps. Number one, I've switched, and this can be a controversial thing, but I've switched most of my food to white oak pastures. So working with a local farm that has regenerative practices, you can call them, ask them, make sure that their, cows are eating healthy, grass from healthy soil, not being pumped full of a bunch of chemicals and hormones, right? So I'm really careful about the kind of meat that I eat. I buy mostly from white oak pastures. I did link them below this video. I also use non-toxic skin products. So I've cut out every kind of toxic chemical thing on my skin. I use, and I try to put all this in the link below my video, but I use Fancy Farm on my skin as my lotion. I don't really use deodorant, but if I do, there's a brand that I use called Fatco, Fatco, and it is tallow based. And I don't use my laundry detergents. I switched all of those out. I don't drink coffee. I don't do any dairy at all, you guys. So a lot of the stuff I'm talking about, like not drinking coffee and not having dairy, at first it sucks. But you kind of get used to it and you start feeling so much better that you just really don't miss it so much. And it has made a world of difference with me in the estrogen dominance. Let's see. And a couple other things that I've done for estrogen dominance, which is basically your liver, all the estrogens in your liver. So you got to get your liver detoxing. So the weight training, supporting your lymphatic system, your electrolytes, all that stuff is going to help detox your liver. Actually eating liver or taking that Ancestral Supplements liver supplement. I've done some castor oil packs. You have to be careful with those. Because they can mess up your cycle. So ideally, ladies, if you do want to do a castor oil pack, you want to do it in between your bleed and before ovulation. That's going to be the best window in there. But doing those castor oil packs on your liver are a great way to help your liver actually detox, so that you can dump some of that estrogen out of your body. You want to make sure you're pooping. You have to be going to the bathroom because that's the other way the estrogen is going to leave your body. So making sure you're regular. There's a couple supplements you can also take if you have estrogen dominance, but you don't want supplements to be your front line. I think your lifestyle has to be forefront. But DIM detox, DIM detox is a good one. And then calcium D-glucarate that can also help you detox your liver. So those things, if your liver is super backed up, it's going to be really hard for you to get your metabolism healthy again. So you guys, if you have questions, let's see. I'm not sure if I understand your question about, does test levels mess up your glucose levels in the blood? I'm not sure what your question is there, Bill, if I understand it correctly. So, all right, so let me talk a little bit about cold therapy also, because that is something that I love and believe in. I talked about it a little earlier, that it helps me get deeper sleep and longer sleep. But the other thing that cold therapy can do, so we have, and I'm going to get Eric, the owner of Cool Fat Burner, which is the cool vest that I use. Again, I'm going to get him on here, but he doesn't want to do an interview with me until September because he's afraid if we do an interview and we talk about it, that it's going to take all of his vests out of stock. So he does have them right now, you guys, but he doesn't want to do an interview just yet because he's afraid he's going to lose his stock. But we have most of our fat as you become an adult is white fat. So this is a really interesting thing. Most of our fat is white fat, which is inefficient. It holds more toxins. So when you do cold therapy, what it actually does is it turns your white fat into brown fat. And children have brown fat, so they're warmer. So once you start doing cold therapy, once you get your metabolism up, you're not going to be cold all the time. So, yes. And that's, yeah, I'll get to that comment in a second. So this could be a good resource also. Wim Hof, What Doesn't Kill You, talks about cold therapy. Now, Wim Hof is Mr. Cold Therapy. He's a little crazy, a little extreme. He does a lot of crazy breathing stuff. But I'm sure that there's going to be great information in that book about brown fat and brown fat activation, how that boosts your metabolism, how that makes your body work more efficiently, helps you get deeper sleep, all that stuff. So I do believe that cold therapy is really, really important in helping you to get your metabolism boosted. Okay, so I think I've talked about pretty much everything that I've been meaning to talk about on here. You know, the biggest thing for me that has been, I'm going to highlight this. Thanks, Sarah, for all the info. I listened to your latest advice and started taking HCL, and my poop has improved dramatically. No more running to the loo. That's awesome. Yeah, and when I first switched to a high-fat carnivore diet, I did have some loose stools for a little while, and I took the HCL, which helps to boost up your stomach acid, just with my dinner every night. And within about 6 weeks, that was over. And I've been doing that since February, and I've been great digestion, go to the bathroom every day, good stuff. But you know, the hardest thing about this whole like boosting my basal metabolic rate has definitely been the weight gain. And this is one thing I think that people are just they are not going to want to do. And I get it. Gaining weight, like we're told in society that it's like literally the worst thing that you can do is to gain weight. And we're so, especially women, I think we're so brainwashed into being so terrified to gain weight and to see that scale going up. Oh, thank you, Alex. I'm going to highlight that. And may I say, you look amazing. Your skin is glowing. Thank you. It's the Fancy Farm skincare and the fat. But you know, I've had to just kind of suck it up with the weight gain. And I have many times along the way in the last 6 months, as I've seen my clothes get, you know, to where they don't fit comfortably, some of them at all, I've wanted to throw in the towel and just say, screw it. I'm going to go back to calorie restricting because I know that that works. I'm really good at losing weight, you guys. Like, I'm really good at it. I've done it my whole life. I've been able to go from a size, 20 down to a size 2. The smallest I've ever been as an adult was a size 0. Not good. Not a good look on me as someone who's almost 5'8", but I have been able to lose weight. So I know how to calorie restrict. I know how to like push through and to, really be hard on my body. And what I'm trying to do now is not do that. I don't want to live the rest of my life trying to eat 1,200 calories or trying to restrict myself. So, the hardest thing about this boosting my basal metabolic rate is just having to eat in that surplus, and to not try to just blot out all my hunger cues all the time. So that's definitely been a difficult part of this journey. That I know it's going to be hard for people. But when I saw my T3 low and I just felt terrible all the time, I was waking up a lot in the night, my cortisol was way too high, I knew I had to make some changes. And yeah, Carissa says, I love cold therapy. I soak in the river for 30 minutes a couple times a week, and I do cold showers. Instantly calms my inflammation and grounds me mentally. Yeah, and that's the other thing about the cold therapy. If I'm so last week, I went from having like a week of horrible PMS, sometimes longer, to I had one bad day of PMS last week, you guys. And I was kind of like, oh, what is this? I don't like this because I'm not used to it. But I had one really bad day of PMS last week. And so I was feeling kind of inflamed. And so I wore my cold vest and I felt better. So cold therapy can help with your inflammation. When I did a test using my continuous glucose monitor, my blood glucose dropped 20 points and it stayed down, which is pretty amazing. So when you're more inflamed, your body is trying to fight something off. And so your blood sugar is going to be higher. So doing that cold therapy got my blood sugar to drop 20 points. I felt better. It gives me more energy and I sleep better. So I'm a huge believer in cold therapy. If y'all have any questions, let me know. I'm going to stay on probably for another 10 minutes just to answer questions. And then I'm going to look through my list to see if there's anything that I missed. Oh, and now that I'm kind of, let's see. My struggle in keto, only in the 1,700 to 1,900 calories intake. How can you shug down over 2,000 calories in 2 meals? Yeah, so Buffalo Bill, that's why I eat 3 meals a day. And I have meat broth with butter in it and ghee in it in between meals. So I don't do 2,000 calories in 2 meals. I do 3 meals, and then I do the meat broth with butter in between, or ghee if you tolerate it. And if you can't, you can do tallow or you can do suet. So I think, yeah, that's the other problem I had that people have with like doing 1 meal a day. I used to do 2 meals a day. I never really liked one meal a day. It just never worked for me. But I was on a solid 2 meal a day plan for like almost a year. And that definitely slowed my metabolism down quite a bit. Because your body, again, you blot out hunger signals for enough time, your body will adjust, right? You stop eating a certain amount of calories. You eat 1,500 calories a day for a long time, your body's going to adjust and slow your metabolism. So that's the other reason for the last 6 months that I've been eating in a surplus, probably around 3,000 calories per day. Because I've wanted my body to adjust, right? So now that I'm slowly kind of taking, and like I said, you guys, in the last week, I've been tracking. I don't track all the time, but I've been just doing this experiment to see what I can get away with to start knocking off some of the weight. And so a couple of days I ate like 2,800 calories. Most of the time the lowest I ate was like 2,200 calories, and I lost weight in the last week. So the scale went down with eating that much food. Now I am doing all this other stuff, the cold therapy, daily weight training, getting my sun, getting my sleep. All that stuff is very important. Balancing electrolytes, keeping my histamines in check, and drinking my water. So here's a question. Is your T3 normal now? How about your cholesterol? So my T3 is now normal. My T3 has tested out normal the last 2 times I've checked it. So the tricky thing about thyroid, you guys, is that you do have to test it and retest it to make sure. And then my cholesterol, I actually did send off a cholesterol test. I'm not worried about my cholesterol, to be honest with you guys. Ansel Keys has really screwed us all up. And as far as like, what your cholesterol, you're all going to die because your cholesterol is high. But I did, just for fun, send off a test for my cholesterol using Let's Get Checked, which they're linked below the video, to see if my cholesterol changed since I switched from super high protein to super high fat. Someone says, so you think we should eat more to keep metabolism up? I think that to get your basal metabolic rate to go up, you probably, if you want to do that eating in a surplus is a strategy that you can implement to do that. And that's a strategy I've implemented, is going to eat in a certain, you don't have to do this doing carnivore. You can do it anyway. A lot of people do this, athletes do this, people who are bodybuilders or physique competitors will do this. They'll eat in that surplus. And then Stephanie Buttermore, who I talked about earlier, she'd in a major surplus. Like I think she was eating 5,000-6,000 calories per day. Did gain a bunch of weight because she was just starving all the time, cold all the time, wasn't having her cycle, right? Now that weight is starting to come off. It took her a year. Now, I don't know that I don't think I had the same kind of metabolic damage that she had, but I definitely had some serious metabolic damage from years of restricting. And then I did not make it better on myself by switching to carnivore and just doing 2 meals a day, doing all this intermittent fasting, doing a bunch of extended fasting, and then trying to like restrict my calories. Okay, so carnivore for 3 years, 2 meals a day and intermittent fasting for 3 years hasn't helped me so far with fat loss, 60 pounds too heavy. Maybe I should try eating 3 times a day for a while. Yeah. And here's the thing, smoking hot needles, that's a funny name. Um, even if because when I weighed myself in February, I was like not at goal. I was still a little heavier than I would like to be for somebody who's my weight, for somebody who's my height, but I still ended up gaining weight because my basal metabolic rate was low. So, after doing 2 meals a day and intermittent fasting, and you're not losing weight, for 3 years, you may have to go in a surplus for a little bit, in order to get your and implement some of these strategies, in order to get your metabolism up a little bit. So even if you're not at the weight you want to be, sometimes you do have to gain a little bit of weight in order to get your metabolism to go up. And that's a very unpopular opinion and it sucks. But I just hate that people feel like they have to be trapped into these, 1,200 calorie a day diets. It's just not a sustainable way to live. Fran wants to know, what do you do for low electrolytes? So I did a whole video recently. It's called Supplements on Carnivore Diet. It's been within the last week, but I have a electrolyte routine that I do. Now, your electrolyte routines can be different based on your body weight, your hormones, like how high your cortisol is already, the climate you live in, the diet that you eat, if you eat any carbohydrates versus no carbohydrates, if you eat keto versus carnivore. So it's hard for me to give an exact formula, but essentially magnesium glycinate I take twice a day, potassium citrate I take twice a day. I don't do the little drops because most of those little keto chow drops or the electrolyte drops or powders have potassium chloride, which is very hard on the kidneys. And a lot of you guys know on this channel that I have been monitoring my kidneys. I started having issues with my kidneys from severe dehydration while doing carnivore and not minding my electrolytes. I also do sodium. I do Redmond sea salt. I do probably 2 teaspoons of salt per day throughout the day. And the other thing about electrolytes is you got to spread this stuff throughout the day. And this is the other thing with your meals and your food. It's really hard for your body to absorb nutrients in these small blocks, So for me, I find that eating, the 3 meals and the meat broth with butter in between the meals, my body absorbs those nutrients and can actually use them to build muscle, all the essential things my body needs to do. All right. So you guys, if you have any more questions, I'm going to stay on for just a couple more minutes. And, don't hesitate to get help. That's the other thing. If you're having a lot of problems, don't hesitate to get help. I mentioned this earlier. It's not like if you eat carbs, you're going to die. Some people are going to be less tolerant to carbs than others. But, if you've been trying carnivore, you've been trying keto, and you're just having problem after problem after problem, you might want to just try to switch it up a little bit and have white rice. Just go back to, and I know this is like a very unpopular opinion. I'm looking at this question. Yeah. Sorry. So don't be so dogmatic about it. Don't just sacrifice your health to be on a specific way of eating. It's just not worth it, you guys. And this is a funny question. Since your hormones are in order, will you have another child? Well, my husband really wants another child, you guys. He's on it right now, big time. And my daughter's 12. She has non-speaking autism. So it is a lot to keep up with her. To give her everything that she needs, but we have talked a lot about having another child, so it's not off the table entirely. So stay tuned for that one. It's a little terrifying to think about, but we have talked about it, and my body is in such great shape right now, hormonally, that Stephanie keto person, she's like, just do it. Don't stop worrying about getting the weight off and just get pregnant. Just do it. And I'm like, oh crap, I don't know if I want to do this, because those of you who have kids, what it's like to go through pregnancy and then to have the baby and be in the newborn stage. And of course, you want to breastfeed and do all that stuff right. So yeah, I don't know. Stay tuned. Let's see. Correct. When I was eating rice and good carbs and potatoes and basically healthy, my blood glucose was fine. Yeah. So this is the thing with keto and carnivore. It's the dark side of keto and carnivore that a lot of people don't necessarily talk about, is that, if your electrolytes are jacked up, some people can have really high cortisol because they're not keto adapting. They're not in ketosis and they're not glucose burning, right? So they're in that middle place. And that's the camp that I fell into when I started having issues with my sleep and low T3 and all this stuff, that I wasn't glucose. So I wasn't eating the carbs. I was just eating meat. I was carnivore, right? And then I wasn't in ketosis. So my body was just jacked up. It was a cortisol shitstorm, if you will. So some people, if you're just not keto adapting, you're not keto adapting, and you've tried to do super high fat and lower protein, and it's just not working out for you, go back to baseline for 6 weeks or for a little bit, and this is, again, not popular advice. And this is funny. Baby Yogi 2021. We'll see. We'll see. It'll be a different experience because when I had my before, 12 years ago, I wasn't doing any yoga. I wasn't meditating. I was working full time in sales. I was very stressed out. It was a totally different experience. I wasn't watching what I ate. I ate whatever I wanted. I was 28 years old, so it was a totally different experience now. So let me answer one more question, and then I got to jump off of here. Is there anything for small itchy rashes? I mean, it just depends on what's causing rashes. Usually what causes a rash is something going on in your gut. So I had severe eczema before I went carnivore. Dairy-free carnivore was very important for me to get rid of all rashes and skin issues. I had to get off of that dairy, you guys. People don't want to hear that either. But that's something that I did to help heal my skin. So it's hard to know. And you could be having a histamine reaction that could be causing a rash. So looking into my video with Dr. Becky Campbell to see all about histamines and how to work with your histamines. So I think that's me because I feel horrible trying to get back into ketosis. I feel too revved up, agitated, and anxious. Yeah. So that is, and Carissa says, I'm in that limbo stage now. And as Stephanie would say, it's fracked me up. I know I say that too. I'm like, that's fracked up. Don't get fracked up. I say that all the time now. And I do see that a lot with people. And I think this is why I think keto and carnivore sometimes gets a bad rap. There are people out there who are coaches, who will help you if you've gotten fracked up from keto and carnivore. And, too much fasting can also make it so that you're not keto adapting. When I was doing a lot of fasting, I was having my blood glucose shoot up in the middle of the night, 30, 40 points starting at midnight. And so it was not the dawn effect, because I've talked about it on videos before and people are like, oh, that was the dawn effect. I'm like, no, it was not the dawn effect that was shooting my blood glucose up 30, 40 points. It was that I was fracked up. It was that my cortisol was, yeah, exactly. Addie's mom says, I feel like it raises, it does. And this is people's cortisol starts to become extremely dysregulated if you're in that limbo spot. And so there are a lot of people out there and people are always like, what about this doctor saying you can't eat too much protein? And this doctor saying protein is blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's a great thing that you have. And you're pulling a bunch of studies that are going to fit your narrative. Thank you for that. But here we are gaslighting people saying that they have high cortisol. And this is a thing. Like I said, there are these coaches out there that are building their entire careers on helping people who have been doing keto and carnivore, who've been doing a ton of fasting, who have not been in ketosis and are having cortisol issues, who can't lose weight, their thyroid is jacked up. So, there are people out there to help with that. If you want to go off carnivore and you want to start eating those carbs again, if that's what you want to do. And I'm not saying it's the worst damn thing in the world to do, you guys, But for me, carnivore has helped me to really heal a lot of things that eating carbs never helped me with. I tried paleo for many years, and it just didn't get rid of my eczema. It didn't get rid of my anxiety and my depression. It didn't get rid of my irritable bowel syndrome. It didn't get rid of my joint pains. It didn't get rid of a lot of stuff. So I've stayed carnivore, but I've had to tweak it quite a bit. As I said, when I was interviewed by Sean Baker about a week and a half ago, is that I've had to tweak it, and I've had to do, and some people are like, you're overcomplicating carnivore. You're overcomplicating it. And I'm like, if if I was overcomplicating it, there wouldn't be these coaches out there who are making their whole Instagram page and their whole career on helping people who are having these problems, who've been trying to stay dogmatic and trying to stay keto and carnivore, and they can't get it to work for them. So now there are these coaches that can help you, from all the problems that people are having. But I want to say that it doesn't, there's a different way that you can stay this way, but you do have to look at the whole picture. So, all right, guys, I've been on here for an hour and 5 minutes, is longer than I had thought I would be. And I have to jump onto another call at 1:30 my time here. So I'm going to try to get a shorter video out for you guys on Wednesday of this week. That means I'm going to have to be doing a lot of filming tomorrow to show you some examples of what my meals look like. A couple of my sleep, the curtains I use, the light bulbs, all the stuff I use for my sleep, the cold therapy, and just talking more about this like gaining weight thing and how it's been kind of just mentally really hard for me to be okay with gaining weight, but knowing that there's a light at the end of that tunnel. The weight gain's not permanent. Like I've said a million times, I can lose weight. It's not the hardest thing in the world to do, but sometimes you have to go, one step forward and 2 steps back type of deal. And that's how I see the weight gain thing and this basal metabolic rate thing. And thank you, Carnivorous Beast. You guys go check out Carnivorous Beast channel. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you, Buffalo Bill. Great therapy for me before hitting the gym. Awesome. Go kill it in the gym, but not too hard. Don't burn out your adrenals, but go lift some weights. All right, you guys, I'll see you next week on the live stream, and have an awesome rest of your Monday. Bye.